this is a political or military front. On the economic front, we borrow money from China. The richest country in the world borrow money from one of the poorest country in terms of average, but still blame China for one thing or after another. How could you make them happy? Now, but the real issue is how representative these people are. I agree with Professor Wu, probably not that necessarily representative, but there's a tendency. These people, probably number is small, but it can be very articulate. They control the media. Right now may not be mainstream media, but very, very influential. These so-called early on the new left intellectuals, but now it already moved to the mainstream. But there's new left intellectual, even more critical, like the currency war you refer to. This could be very dangerous. Now, this angry youth, I'm afraid, in 10 or 15 years, they probably no longer angry, but become arrogant youth, because of China's success. So I think that's a very important challenge for the United States, how to find a better policy to change their mindset. It involves a lot of communication, a lot of educational work. I think Committee 100 should play a crucial role to educate young people in China and elsewhere to talk about the mutual understanding and the importance, and to try to also eliminate some misunderstandings. But I think this is a really very important area. We should look at it very, very carefully.
Interesting, good stuff. Next question. Ambassador Wu raised reunification, so let me turn to that issue. This is a two-part question. Reunification is part of it. What do you think the major potential threat to Sino-U.S. relations in the coming years is? And second, how will the Taiwan issue influence Sino-U.S. relations as the relations across the strait get better and better?
Yes. What's the major threat for U.S.-China relations in the years to come? I think first threat is, do you accept that China is different? If you have that kind of mentality, my way or no way, the Chinese have to behave like you. If they don't, they are wrong. Then that will lead us to the head-on confrontation. It does not exclude, from time to time, exchanges. You can tell us what you think. We can tell you what we think. And that's quite all right. But since America is only a superpower in the world, last century, was American century, you develop such a mentality. You think what you think is right. If people don't behave like you, they are wrong. That kind of mentality is very dangerous. First threat. The second threat, I think, is how to, deal with China. And he's quite right, my Professor Cheng is quite right. Depends very much on the way you deal with the Chinese. If you behave in such a way, I can sum up that kind of behavior in 3 words: finger pointing, lecturing, and the China bashing. You will help a lot those forces which don't like strong U.S.-China cooperation. You help them. We are going through such a period in China. There are different views. He said that there are 2 views. To my understanding, there are many views, quite different. We are going through a sort of a period of the 100 schools of thought. Many views are expressed there. Some are for strengthening U.S.-China relations. Others are against. Different forces are there. I think you have to deal with China in a proper way. Otherwise, it's counterproductive.
Very quickly, the former chairman of the American Intelligence Council, Dr. Thomas Finger, actually asked that question: what's the biggest threat for U.S.-China relations? His answer was us. Us meaning United States. Our arrogance, our ignorance, our single-mindedness. I agree with that view. But of course, there's a lot of other concerns from Chinese side as well. But at the moment, I think we should have a much better discourse in this town and in the United States, in the Western world, about what kind of China, we should deal with, and why we should keep some kind of humility, and also understand China's perspective. That discourse, it seems to me is still quite weak. Particularly our media actually really not ready to present a more balanced view of China, despite the good coverage of the Olympics. But still, then they lost. They talk about some other issues. But because what happened in China had profound impact to us, I think, again, it's probably the worst threat. It's not about China's military modernization, but our poor policy. But hopefully that Obama, so far, I think he has done all the right things, right? To be a good listener, and will have a trip to China the first year of his term, and all these are very good moves.
Question of Taiwan, maybe. Please. A few days ago, I met Ambassador Winston Lord, and he told me this. I say that the Trilateral Commission Conference, I said, in terms of the cross-strait relations, maybe we are going through the best phase in the last 30 years. Then he came to me. He said, in terms of the cross-strait relationship, we are at the best phase in the last 60 years. It's good. More and more exchange across the streets, and more understanding between two sides. Then how we have come to that kind of situation? I think in the last 6 years, there was a healthy trend which is emerging. In that process, the process of improving cross-strait relations, U.S. didn't stand in the way. On the contrary, China, U.S., we had the sort of the cooperation to bring about that kind of situation. Means what? More stability. The cross-strait relations. That will be in the interest of China, also in the interest of the United States. That's very helpful. I hope this trend will continue. But should one day U.S. change its policy, to want to separate, for forever Taiwan from mainland China, then our relations will be big trouble.
Unfortunately, we're going to run out of time before we get to some of these really, really good questions, but let me try to get a couple under the wire quickly. How should the West interpret and understand China's dream? It suggests that the phrase 一个梦想,一个世界 is not particularly well understood by the West. Could you, one dream, one world, how should the West interpret that as a slogan?
This is the slogan of China's Olympics. That slogan did not come easily. Should some people have raised that kind of slogan during Cultural Revolution, he would be probably counter-revolutionary, and he would suffering a lot of things. How come? Can you have the same world with the U.S. imperialism? The dream is impossible. That, I think, slogan is indicative of the change which is occurring in China. Chinese, more and more, they like to